And we're on, mate.
Awesome.
Listen, doing something a little off the cuff here with head coach of Michigan, Matt Bowe. We were just at the Irvine meet together, mate, and thought we'd just get together here. I don't know, there might be some people join us in the chat here soon. So if there are people who are jumping on and being surprised by this live show, this is just off the cuff. So
yeah, let's do it. This is awesome.
It's cool, mate. Now, first of all, what are you doing in Irvine?
We're here for the nationals, so Speedo Summer Championships, and we've got a really big group out here. So
look at that, Hunter Armstrong is
here.
Yeah, Hunter in Paris. He's a legend.
What are you doing, Hunter?
I love it. Yeah, sorry about that. I got interrupted by Hunter.
Yeah, we're here at Speedo Summer Championships, so we brought a really big group out. We've got over 20 athletes out here competing, so. Yeah, it's awesome. Had some best times, broken records. Yeah. It's been a fun meet so far.
That's awesome. It's good stuff. Now, since Hunter is here, you and I were actually chatting about Hunter this morning, weren't we? And just saying how cool it is to see him perform. We were actually talking about his 100 backstroke at trials, how crazy that was. But tell us, what was it like coaching Hunter a few years back?
I mean, Hunter's an unbelievable athlete. I think, what we talked about this morning, when you think of athletes that when they get in the arena and they kind of lock in and can handle that pressure and perform, I think he's great at that. And it was actually interesting, the race that we were talking about where, he slipped at the start at trials. Most athletes in that scenario would just panic. They would spin their wheels and then they're going to really hurt on the back 50. Yeah. Hunter's used to swimming from behind because, one thing that he's tried to get better at and he has got better at in his career is his underwater kick. And so, I think he didn't panic when he slipped. And when he came up, he looked at his tempo and it was 1.1. It was, he just kind of fought his way back into the race without over swimming that first 25.
Yeah. Great lesson for him and for everyone watching, right? Like it's cool. And those things happen at the highest level. It's going to happen. Might happen at the Olympics. You just got to keep your composure. Now, I've always considered Hunter to be a backstroker, and he's proven all of us wrong in that sense. We should not box him in, first of all. But his 100 freestyle is looking hot. That relay for the US is almost looking unbeatable to me.
Yeah, I think, coming into trials, I think the US felt like they had people that could perform and get a decent relay together. But looking at it now, I think the US team's looking really strong. Hunter is certainly someone that when I was coaching him, we coached a lot. We trained a lot of freestyle actually. Yeah. Just I think it kept his backstroke a little fresher, and so it's nice to see that his freestyles come on a lot. And then what Chris Giuliano did, Jack Alexi as well, and then obviously Caleb back in form. It's going to be fun.
Yeah, awesome. Well, listen, quick congratulations on. Was it your first year at Michigan?
It was first year.
First year, man. Yeah, and you had a killer year already.
Yeah, it was fun. we had a great college season. Our women's team was the most improved team in the country, moving from 23rd to 12th, and so we kind of rolled that forward. The men did a great job, moving up from 20th to 14th, and then we kind of rolled that in a long course. There wasn't a lot of time to relax, and we just had a great Olympic trials. I think coming into this year, we felt like there were outside chances to make the team for the US, and to get Charlie Swanson on the team in the 100 breaststroke was awesome. So,
yeah, that is cool. Did you like in terms of the 100 breast itself? I felt like it was wide open. Did you have that thought yourself going in?
Yeah, and I think that's really why we kind of focused on it. If you look at Charlie, kind of what he naturally has been swimming when he was younger, he's a more aerobic athlete. He was a 4'11" in the 4 IM, 208.0, I think, in the 2 breast. So he's got that aerobic background, and I just said to him, hey, let's try and get stronger. Let's focus a little bit more on the 100, because I just felt like that was a better path to the team.
Yeah, that's awesome. And have you checked in with him? How's he enjoying the proceedings so far?
He's doing great. Yeah, he's doing great. They obviously had a great camp in Croatia, and that's just a phenomenal place to hold a camp. And he's swimming fast. I was actually shocked. Chris Lindauer is coaching him out there, and I think he's swimming way faster than what he was going into Olympic trials. So I think that environment, when you're with the Olympic team, it just brings out the best in you.
But what we were saying, in terms of the Olympic trials, the US have an upper hand here. Like, it looks like there's about 17,000 seats in this stadium. Not sure if they'll all be full, but let's say it's 15,000. It's still going to be about 7,000 or 8,000 less than what they were competing in pretty much every session at US trials. So they definitely have an upper hand here, don't they?
Yeah, I mean, what an incredible venue that was, just in Indianapolis. So, yeah, I think the US are going to be that's not going to faze them. I mean, I've always said to people internationally, obviously I came from the UK, and people would always say that the Olympic Games is the most high pressure environment on the planet. And I actually feel with the US, it's Olympic trials, because that's the only time that you're on your own, you're competing to try and get a spot on the team. And once you get to the Olympics, yeah, sure, it's a high pressure environment, but you're part of Team USA, you're doing it for the team again. So. Yeah,
massive pressure. And it doesn't surprise me to hear some little inside notes from the camp itself that everyone out there is swimming fast, like you just said, and I'm hearing that a lot. The US guys and girls seem to be a little bit more relaxed now. Now's the time to go out and celebrate and just have fun. And now is where they're kicking in and just tearing up some times in camp, which is fantastic to hear. But they're all in the village now. So, have you been to an Olympics before?
I haven't, actually. No. I was third twice as an athlete.
Oh, really?
And then, just because of COVID, couldn't go to the last one. So.
Yeah. Well, I'll tell you this. The Olympic Village, for anyone that's listening, including Hunter out there, is a place where swims can be won and lost. Truly, I believe that. I've seen people go in and just completely blow their plan. It's very easy to get caught up in there. And I made a little funny Instagram post about this. It's almost like going into the chocolate factory, Charlie and the chocolate factory. There's so much to see and do and taste, and there's autographs and there's pictures and there's you want to do this and you want to do that, and then all of a sudden you forget you're actually there to compete. You're there to race, and especially those people that are racing day 1, 2, 3 type thing. It comes up quick on you, and if you're really distracted, that'll expose you very quickly.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, we talk about it a lot with the athletes. I said the same thing to Charlie. I said, don't go to the Olympic Games and be a tourist.
Yeah.
I think you get a lot of people that they want to go there, experience it, and they get caught up with seeing superstars, right. Basketball players walking around the village, that kind of stuff. And so, you got to just stay locked in and understand what you're there to do. And I think the interesting thing for swimming is, and again, this time you're at the front of the Olympic program. What I'm hearing in LA, you're going to be at the back of the program. So that's going to, you're going to have different challenges there, kind of being part of the Olympics, but not competing right until the end. So,
yeah, again, for anyone that's just joining us, looks like it's growing the list here. Here with Matt Bowe, head coach of Michigan, got his first year under his belt, had an incredible year. What was your process when you first took over the job? Like, how did you kind of figure out what to do and when to do it?
Yeah, I mean, this was my first head coaching job, so and we were pretty late. I was late getting the job, so it was kind of into July. So the first thing was really just getting the staff on board. So I knew the coaches that I wanted on my staff and went after them. Thankfully, they accepted. They wanted to be a part of it, and so that was kind of the first step. And then it was just getting to know the team and kind of building those relationships with the athletes. But yeah, it's I'm fortunate. I feel like head coaches get the buck stops with you, so you get the praise. You also get the flack when things are not going well. But I've got a great team of coaches and people behind me.
Well, listen, we don't love talking about ourselves too often, but I'll give you some praise. Everybody that I talked to when you took over this position said you were absolutely ready for it and you would absolutely kill it. From Dave Durden, Dave Marsh, people that knew you. I didn't know you as well as they did, but they said you were absolutely ready for this position. Just in terms of giving yourself a little bit of love, like what do you feel like your strengths and weaknesses are, the things that you do really well?
I would say just getting to know people, understanding that everyone's different. So I feel like on a college team, you've got the goal of the team, you've got the direction that everyone's heading, right. But then you've got to have individual goals within that, and you've got to understand that everyone's different. So the way that you coach a person, the way that that you communicate with them is different. And so it's really just understanding that you've got to have an individual approach within a team setting. And so, and then for me, you know, family is everything. And so just the team for me is an extension of my family. And so, yeah, just having fun. And I mean, in a family, you're going to fight at times, right? You're going to, it's not going to be all sunshine and rainbows, but you come back around, you pick yourself up and you get on with it. So
let me ask you this. How did you know you were ready for a position like this? And then obviously it's competitive as well. So there's many people going for Michigan head coaching job. How do you put yourself in the front of the line, you know, when you're going out there and you're doing the interviews? How do you put your best foot forward on that?
Yeah, I mean, in terms of feeling like I was ready, I just felt like I was ready to take that leap. And you know, I kind of knew that I wanted to be a head coach and you know, kind of run my own program and run my own system. And so that itch was there for quite a while. And then I think, you know, Dave Durden was incredible just in terms of his support. And you know, I told him there was one job when I took the job at Cal. I said, one job, if it comes up, I would love to go for it, because he was asking me to go through 2 years, you know, through Paris, which is understandable. And you know, I mean, true to his word, Dave's awesome. He supported me for it. And I mean, I actually think that year at Cal as well just helped kind of widen my horizons and understand, you know, how to run a program a little better than what, you know, the experience that I had previously. I mean, Dave Marsh, Dave Durden, they're amazing coaches. They've been head coaches for a long time.
Yeah, learn from the best there. That's awesome to see. And then I did have a question on that, and it just escaped my mind. See, sometimes when you're doing live shows, you're exposed to, you know, but if there's anyone in the audience here, there's a bunch of them now, over 70 people. If you got questions for Matt, please feel free to hit us up. Like we're here to chat, really. So if you got questions, you want to know about Michigan, you want to know about Matt, that's what I was going to say. Now it came back to me. Okay, so traditionally Michigan has this, you know, it created a system of training, right? Like, you know, a Banchek was there and he created his color system, and it's kind of spread out throughout the whole world. And it's a system of training now that everybody abides to and people have used for years. How then do you come into Michigan and say, hey, I've got my own system, I've got my own philosophies and beliefs, and maybe switch it up a bit?
Yeah, I mean, I think the history of our program, I mean, the Olympic legacy that John created, or even before John's time, to be honest, with Gus Steger and Matt Mann, I mean, the history was there. And so I kind of feel like you don't want to change things too much. And if there's a good existing system, you know, if it ain't broke, don't fix it, that kind of philosophy.
Yeah.
But then I wanted to put my touch on it. I mean, I think if you look at the programs that have been there before, whether it was with John or even Bob, you know, during his time, they're definitely more focused around that middle distance piece. And you know, my kind of success, I would say, has been more in the sprint realm. And so, and so that's what I get excited about. I love sprinting, and I think it's different. So you've got to understand, within a college program, you've got to have both, right? So you've got to be a complete team. But just my philosophy is that middle distance aligns a little closer with sprint.
Right.
And I think maybe some of those previous coaches would have aligned middle distance with the distance groups. So.
Right. Now, a lot of programs have, you know, pro teams or pro swimmers attached to them. How do you feel about having a pro team?
I mean, we had some pros this year, and I'll be honest, I was a little apprehensive just with, you know, getting a college program moving in the right direction and kind of changing the culture there. And so I was apprehensive about that, but it's Olympic year, and we had athletes that really wanted to make the team. And so I just felt it was right to support them. And I think pro teams can be an advantage in recruiting if you do it right. I think recruits
doing it well.
I think recruits see that you know, you can extend your career beyond college, but it takes time and attention, because, you know, just the nature of it. Pros are competing at that highest level, and so you got to make sure you're doing right by them.
Yeah, we don't need to do a comparison here, but in terms of fitness, you keep fit. You know, I'm walking around the deck and seeing some coaches, I'm worried about them. You look like you keep in shape and look after yourself. What's your routine for taking care of you?
I mean, running around after 3 kids right now, but no, I try and work out every morning. I think one thing I talk about with our staff is just keep an active lifestyle. And so, on our staff, I make sure that people are working out and that they have time in the day to do it. You can always find things to make your day busy. So you just got to carve out time.
Yeah, you do.
I like to lift weights and, get out and run a little bit.
Beautiful. I love it. Now, talk to us about some of the other kids you have at the Olympics now who represent other teams.
Yeah, so we've got 15 athletes at the Olympics. So that includes some of our alumni. It includes a lot of our current team. We've got Gal Groomy. He's on the Israel team. We've got Eitan Ben Shitrit, who's on the Israel team. So no, I'm excited about them. We've got a ton more, but it's just it's great to see kind of the alumni and the current team kind of collide. And obviously you've got people like Siobhan Hawke, Maggie McNeil. So it's going to be fun to watch.
Siobhan could win the 100 free. Maggie could win the 100 fly.
She could.
I mean, that'd be huge.
She's looking incredible. I mean, like you see a breaststroke. The breaststroke came out of nowhere as well.
Yeah, she's like 106 in that. 105.
Yeah.
She's moving. There's going to be some fast swimming this week, hey? Apart from, us being here in Irvine and seeing some kids get to swim, but, we're all ultimately looking forward to the Olympics, which kicks off on Saturday. Are there any particular races you think are going to be super nail-biting, competitive, exciting to watch? What are you thinking?
I mean, 100 freestyle for the men. It's I would say it's probably the best 100 freestyle field that there's ever been at the Olympic Games, and diverse as well. It's not just athletes coming from one or two countries. Right. It's there's a ton of people that could win it. So I'm really excited about that one.
Hard to pick a winner in that, and it's not even really fair to try and pick a winner right now because they're all so good. They're all working their butts off. They're all great guys too. Yeah, they're all very competitive with each other, but they're all very supportive of each other. It seems like a group that is pushing each other to get better, to break barriers, and we've seen that. Like so many guys getting in and around 47 flat, under 47 these days. I mean, it's crazy fast, isn't it?
I mean, not to pump Sprint Revolution here, but you got to have speed, right? Yeah. And so, like, you're seeing guys now taking that event out in 22 low or 22 mid. And I just feel like gone are the days where people could go out in 23 low and then really hit the back half. You've got to have the speed now. Yeah, and so
you go out in 23 at this games and you are done. You're not in the conversation. So all those guys, Kyle Chalmers, even the back enders, Dave Popovich, Chalmers, all those back enders, they're all getting out in 22. They've found ways to get speed. You got to get out on it. What did you think about Kate Douglas pulling out of the 100 free on the women's side?
Yeah, I thought it was interesting. I mean, she's got a ton of weapons, and so I mean, she's got to be selective. But I really felt like she, has a great 100 freestyle in her, and I selfishly on my part, I was excited to see her go up against some of the Aussies because I feel like the Aussies have dominated that to some extent, and so it would have been nice to throw her name in there. But I mean, she's got to do what's best for her and put the right schedule together. But I think that was one that I was excited about that we're not going to see.
What about a coach? Is a coaching question. What about a coach like Boxall, who's got 10 on the team for Australia and got some defending champions, got some new possibilities, and just doing an incredible job. But there is a fine line between pushing people hard and then obviously finding their limits and then telling them, hey, this isn't the right program for you. So Dean obviously has a set of standards that he says we live by these standards. Yeah. And they're tough. They're real tough. In this day and age, that's pretty gutsy to kind of stand by those standards and say, look, I'm going to push you harder than anyone's ever pushed you before. It's getting tougher in the US to do that, isn't it?
It is, and I think now it comes back to the relationship that you have with the athletes and the trust that's there, and I mean I think in elite sport you've got to push to that level because I mean that's the nature of it. If you don't push to those levels and find where your edge is, then you're not gonna be successful. You're not gonna grow, and so it's hard because I feel like in college athletics now there's so much red tape to get through, and in some ways maybe it's harder to push athletes to that point.
Yeah, definitely challenging for you and your staff. Here's a question: did you ever go head to head with Phelps?
So interestingly, I did, but only short course yards. It was in a Grand Prix meet here in California. Actually, it was when they used to host the Grand Prix at the old Belmont Plaza pool. And I think Phelps had come down from altitude. He had a full beard, and you know, we were still in hard training. And I just remember kind of going into the turn at the 50 and seeing Phelps pushing off, and I thought that's not good. So, but
no one
no,
sees feet. Never want to see Phelps' feet.
But no, I had another opportunity at World Championships to be on the relay against him, and I was on the fly leg for Great Britain. He would have been on the fly leg for the US, but the US disqualified the relay in prelims, so we didn't get to race. Yeah.
Just observationally, I mean, we've all got a chance to watch him compete and perform. You probably a little closer than others, but what are the things that you took from him that you know, you can replicate? You can tell anybody can do these things. Like, obviously Phelps is in a class of his own. There's things that you're never going to be able to do that Phelps could do, but there are things that he had standards of practice, didn't he?
I mean, I think Bob talked a lot about just developing underwaters and how, you know, you develop underwaters not by doing specific sets to work on underwater kick. Like, yes, you can do that with, you know, drag socks, resistance, that type of work. But I think it was just the discipline of saying, I'm holding a kick count. I'm going to go X number of kicks off the wall. And I'm going to do it, whether it's warm up, you know, preset, main set, warm down. And I think that was kind of the standard he set for himself. And, you know, I think that's why he was just phenomenal underwater, as well as physical gifts and that kind of thing.
Yeah. I really loved how I tell the story a lot. You know, I was in Rio and I was actually in the warm up pool, whatever you call it, you know, with a lot of the athletes and coaches kind of getting ready for the next events. And Phelps has gone out and I hear the crowd erupt, you know, and Phelps, and then I see that on the TV, Phelps wins a gold medal. And then I turn around and literally within about 45 seconds, I see Phelps running through the gates and jumping into the warm down pool. And I'm thinking to myself, wow, that was quick. It was like 45 seconds ago. He's winning a gold medal and he's straight into the next event. You know, like he's locked into, okay, I won that. Boom, I got another one. And then literally 30 minutes later, I see him with his sweats on. And he's walking like, you know, zeroed in, just going to the call room with Bob walking about 3 steps behind him. And then goes out and wins another gold medal. You know, so it's just like bang, 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 bang.
And I think he just had that ability to focus in on one event. And then as soon as that event was done, it was the next one. You know, I think people often wonder, if you're winning 8 gold medals, are you thinking about the event that's, you know, 3rd or 4th on your program? But I think, you know, with Phelps, he obviously did a great job of just locking in on what was in front of him and then move on to the next one.
What's your thoughts? I mean, obviously from Great Britain, what's your thoughts on their chances here at this Olympics?
I think the British team's done really well over the past probably 5-6 years. You know, I think Adam Peaty obviously, you know, kind of led that revolution, and James Guy and some of those other guys, Tom Dean, kind of took that forward. And so I think, you know, I think some of those guys are getting a little bit older now. So it's kind of looking forward at the new crop that's coming through. But I'm just excited to see, you know, everything that Adam Peaty's been through, you know, in his personal life, and just I'm excited to see how he comes back from that and performs at this Olympics. And I know I'll be rooting for him, even though I'm dual citizen now with the US. But
do you know him personally?
I know him a little bit. I know his coach a lot better. So Mel Marshall, I was in the same training group as Mel. You know, we swam for Ben Titley back in Loughborough. So
great girl.
Great
woman and great coach, Ben Titley. But you know, so I've been hearing some stuff from him, kind of really positive, almost like he's got his mojo back. Like, you think he can win this thing again?
I think he can. Yeah. I think it's, you know, I think if you look at his progression, and I actually think, you know, where he was at World Championships is a good thing. The fact that he didn't perform, you know, he wasn't winning World Championships or anything like that, because it just kind of helped him keep that hunger there and just keep working hard. And I just think what an incredible story it would be for him to come back and win this one more time.
Yeah, there's some epic battles ahead. I mean, individually and then and team battles. You know, that British team, defending champs in the 4x2, they look unbeatable there again. They're so stacked.
Yeah, I mean, they've got a great team. Yeah, I mean, I think you know, again, there's some older guys.
Matt Richards, man.
Matt Richards is he's swimming amazing.
He can bang that kid, man.
And he's got speed as well. I mean, you look at those guys. I mean, the 200 freestyle is another one of those events where you've got to have speed, and I think Matt Richards shows that. I mean, he's a 47-second freestyler, and so on the 100. And so
How do you do that? How do you balance speed and endurance? You know, it's a tough balance, but like you said, they're getting out in 49 in that 200 free these days. You know, they're going to flip. The top guys are going to flip in 49 for sure here at this Paris game. So how do you have that type of speed, but then build the endurance? What's the balance in training with that?
I honestly think that's the hardest event to train for is the 200 and 200 freestyle, yes, but just 200s in general, because you've got to have that speed going out. So you've got to be, you got to be doing lactate production sets. You've got to be doing short speed work. You've got to be heavily working strength and power in the weight room. And then, you've got to combine that with doing pretty dense race pace sets and enough aerobic work to be able to handle that. So I think it's the hardest event to train for because it's the one where you get the crossover of the aerobic and anaerobic systems. And so it's, it's a tough one, but I think all of those guys, if you look at it, they've got the physical piece, but then they're incredible.
Right.
And so, you've got guys that have more of that gallop stroke and they're driving the legs behind it. But
how are you breaking up your training groups at Michigan these days?
We're usually kind of typical sprint, middle distance. But then, within that, we've got people that we call kind of hybrids that go across groups. So I would say the one thing we do really well is as a team and as a staff, we collaborate a lot. And so we understand that you might have someone that's in middle distance, but they need to train with sprint, a few times a week. And so it's one of those things where you got to have a system where you're matching up the type of work you're doing. So you're doing high intensity work on the same day, same practice. And then those people can move across, but they're not getting hit on a high intensity workout. And then the next day, same in a different group,
Right. So, there's a lot of management there too, hey?
Yeah. I mean,
a lot of communication.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I've learned as a head coach is you're managing a lot of people. You got to communicate really well. And so it's different.
When do you guys have staff meetings once a week or something?
Yeah, we probably started out twice a week. And one of those was kind of more talking about logistics, talking about recruiting, that kind of stuff. And then one of them was looking more at, okay, how do we get better? How do we get better as a staff? How do we get better as a team? And so, I think having that balance of the two, because, you kind of forget about it when you're in the thick of it. You've always got to reflect and think, okay, well, we did well this season, but how do we get better the next season? Because our goal is not to stay in the same place. So.
It's competitive. Look, it's tough these days. The landscape in the college swimming is very tough for a couple of reasons. First of all, there's a lot of great coaches out there, a lot of great teams. Every team is fairly well supported. They've got good facilities. They've got good history. They've got great coaching staff. So everybody's building teams very similarly. So how do you find differences? How do you creep up the rankings? How do you build a team that is better than the team that you had the previous year? How do you compete at this level where everybody's good?
I think honestly, you've got to understand what your identity is, and then you've got to stay true to that. And so, for us, we're not trying to be Virginia, we're not trying to be Cal, we're not doing that. We're Michigan, and we're proud to be Michigan. And so it's understanding, recruiting the type of athletes that are going to fit in with your culture. And our culture is more important than bringing in fast people that maybe don't fit it. And so I think that's kind of been our mindset, is just we're not going to put on a show. For recruits, we're going to be authentic. We're going to be who we are, and either recruits are going to want to be a part of what we've got, or they're not, and that's okay. But I just think it's difficult, because like you said, it's really, really competitive now. And so for us, I feel like we are on the forefront of trying to, not just do things that coaches have done for a long time. Right. So we want to look at the sport and say, okay, how can we improve what we're doing? How can we make people more powerful? How can we improve technique? Right. Not just doing things because they've been done for 10, 20 years. And so I enjoy the weight side. I enjoy the strength and conditioning side of training. And that's an area where we've taken it to another level. We're looking at ways to recruit muscle fibers, to be more explosive. I think if you look at athletes or swimmers back 20 years ago, I don't think they were the kind of athletes that they are now.
Right, yeah, sure.
And so, you know, we have kind of the mindset of let's develop athletes and then make them better swimmers.
Well, one of the biggest shifts too in the last 20 years is not how do we work harder, but how do we work smarter, and recovery is a big deal. So how do you build in recovery? I mean, it's easier at the end of the year, right? It just says, all right, we're going to taper off. And that's generally how recovery was built in the past. But like early on in the season, these kids are, you know, they're doing recruiting weekends. They're doing 20 hours in school. They're doing all this swimming, and they're just learning. They're getting stronger in the gym. They're doing a lot of work in the gym. So how do you build in recovery into all that stuff?
Yeah, I mean, I think part of it is just having a culture where you educate the team on what they need to be doing outside the pool to help with their recovery. I mean, sleep is hugely important.
Huge, yeah.
So, and we understand it's difficult. You know, Michigan's a tough academic school, and so your workload is going to be really high, especially at certain times. And so, you know, just making sure they're getting enough sleep, making sure their diet is good. I mean, that's a huge part of it. And then, you know, part of the responsibility is ours as well. I think coaches, you're always looking, how can we improve and how can we push them harder and swim faster? But at the end of the day, you've also got to build in the recovery as part of the program, because if you're not, then, you know, it's hard to get those adaptations.
Right. Michigan's a tradition school. How did you figure out what traditions to keep and what you need to kind of pass on? We're seeing schools these days getting in trouble for holding on to traditions a little too long. Sometimes it's looked at as hazing in a way. So how did you figure out, all right, these are the core principles we need to hang on to. We need to let go of a couple of things.
Yeah, I think I was kind of fortunate because when I came in, I obviously had Gunnar Schmidt, who's an alum of the program. And so he was the head coach of Club Wolverine. You know, he knew Michigan really well, knew those traditions. You know, I then got Jared Daigle on staff. So he was a fifth year a year ago and finished at World University Games and then came on staff. Nice. And so that was kind of a nice blend of seeing what the traditions were from 10, 15 years ago. And you know, I feel like with Michigan, there was nothing understanding the history of our program and also, you know, you get some college programs out there that you know, just our has to be on the Olympic Games. It has to be on the international scene, world championships. And so, and so that's kind of what we've continued. We want to get athletes that aspire to be at that level. And I think if you do that and you do it the right way, a little bit like what I learned from Dave and Cal, you know, if you're doing it the right way at the international level, then you're going to be good at conference and NC2As.
Well, just goes to show you how many you got here at this meet?
21.
21 swimming at this meet, you know, a couple of days out before the Olympics. These guys are all out here in Irvine competing, trying to get faster, trying to get better for the summer so then they can come back and have a great fall season, right? Yeah,
no, exactly. And that's kind of what we looked at with this meet. We just felt like we wanted to have an end of year meet for those that, you know, kind of helped continue the season after U.S. Olympic trials, because U.S. Olympic trials is fairly early, and you know we don't start back up until the third week in August. So we wanted to have something a little closer.
Right. Let's look at this. What's your first Olympic memory? You growing up as a kid, what's the first Olympics that had an impact on you?
I think the one that had an impact was probably Sydney. You know, I just remember the battles between Peter Van den Hoogenband and Ian Thorpe. I mean, I love those. I remember even asking my dad if I could miss school one day just to watch it because of the time difference. And I just think that was an incredible Olympics. I actually was fortunate enough to go out to Australia in my career and train with some of those guys and train with people like Ashley Callis, who was on that relay. So.
Ash, good friend of mine, good competitor of mine. Yeah, Sydney was awesome. Sydney was epic. And we just had 2 weeks of the most phenomenal weather there in Sydney. It was just like, Irvine today. It's just gorgeous and super memorable Olympics. Yeah, they've all got something to offer. I think Paris is going to be epic. I mean, just the backdrop of Eiffel Tower and everything else that's going on in Paris. It's going to be epic. Some crazy battles ahead. I can't wait. Yeah, if you guys got more questions, let's go. More questions in the chat. I know we've got over 100 people in here now, so that's cool. What else can we talk about here in terms of Michigan? Tell us more about Michigan. What do we need to know?
I mean, I think Michigan, in my eyes, is where you can be elite in swimming, or any sport. You know, this is not just specific to swimming. I think whatever you are as an athlete, Michigan provides a platform where you can be elite in those sports.
Yeah, how connected is the athletic department, like with each other?
Really connected. I mean, this past week I was on a development trip, and Sharon Moore's there, Dusty May, so our head football coach, head basketball coach, nice. and so I really feel the support from the other head coaches. I think that's awesome. And then the other piece is, once your athletic career's over, you've got to be in a position where you're successful in the rest of your life. And I think Michigan, just the level of academics, the degree you're going to get from Michigan is going to help provide that. Yeah.
Yeah. Here's a question about power towels. When you drop, I don't drop power towels in terms of, cutting them out completely. The word taper is exactly what it is. You just taper it down, but I wouldn't cut it out completely, would you?
No, I mean, we probably touch power towers or power racks about seven days out. I would say would be probably the last time. I mean, you want your central nervous system to recover a little bit, but I mean, you're talking about bringing the volume of reps on the power towers down from maybe 15, 16, all the way down to 2 reps at the end.
Yeah, so. Just a quick pop.
Yeah,
same as what you do in the gym. Just feeling popping. I saw at Rio Olympics, when I was at the Rio Olympics, I saw a couple of Australian girls lined up on the pool deck in the warm-up pool doing med ball slams, doing explosive push-ups, doing squat jumps, things like that, like doing activation stuff all the way up to the day before they raced the 100 freestyle, and this is what these girls are doing, going 51s in the 100 free. So like for me, that type of activation, whether it's a power tower, stretch quad, any type of resistance, you just want a short pop just to feel it. It's just an activation. That's all.
Yeah, I think if you get too far away from that, it's you're not recruiting the muscle fibers that you need to race at that level. So
you feel funky. You feel like you're not holding any water.
Yeah, so. And some people recruit them on land, with, like you said, those exercises. Some people, it's in the pool with resistance training.
Yeah. So. Mate, it feels like in the past couple of months, every couple of weeks, the landscape feels like it's changing in college swimming a bit. How does it feel for you? Like I've just seen rumors where they could be dropping men's teams down to almost 23 athletes. I mean, it's a little scary.
Yeah, I mean, it's difficult to navigate for sure, just especially in recruiting, because you're not really sure what your roster is going to look like. I think we're all advocating for opportunities for swimmers, and I think it's sad to see something like that on a men's team where you potentially would be going as low as that. And so I think a lot of the head coaches out there are pushing for the rosters to be a little bit higher, but we also understand the financial impact in college athletics and what that means, and so I mean, like you say, the landscape's changing all the time, and so we kind of just preach to our athletes, focus on what you need to do. Don't worry about that. Let the coaches, administrators worry about that. Just focus on, every day, the practice that it's in front of you and improvement.
Yeah. Mate, we are live right now. My dog is like whining in the background. I'm going to let her in. Hang on a second. Come on. Come inside. Stop it. Please let me in. Please let me in.
She wants to be a part of it here.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. So, all right, in terms of recruiting, there's a lot of young kids listening, maybe some parents listening. What's the best advice you can give in terms of how to catch Michigan's eye other than times in the pool? What else can they be doing to catch your eye?
I mean, a little bit of what we talked about previously. So, I mean, we're looking for people that are a good fit, the high character people that are going to put the team first.
And how do you find that out? Like, how do you find that out from just observation?
Observation a little bit, but I would say just through talking to recruits. So, once you get to June 15, going into your junior year, then that's when we're starting to get on calls, and our staff's getting on calls with recruits. And so it's really just building those relationships, understanding what's important to them. But I think through those conversations, you learn about whether people are driven, what their strengths are, what their weaknesses are, whether they're a team first kind of person or whether they're more, individual. And I'm not saying one thing is better than the other, because sometimes you have some people that are really individually focused that can excel as part of your team and can be a real asset to your team.
Yeah.
So,
and here's my advice to anyone listening out there. It's tough to have a conversation with him if you're given one-word answers, right? It's hard to have a podcast if he's giving one-word answers. So, like, it's difficult.
Yeah.
You have those conversations, don't you? You ask
Yeah.
a real nice, elaborate question, you get a one-word answer.
And we get it, right? We get that people are getting recruited at a younger age now, and that's kind of a daunting prospect. But I think for us, and especially our staff, the way we just like to get to know people.
Mm-hmm.
I think the reason the coaches I hired was because they have an amazing ability to connect with people. And so, I think we're just as excited to get to know recruits as they are to get to know the colleges and try and choose where they want to go. So it's, you get some people that don't like recruiting, and I love it just because, I think it's just always interesting to hear different people's stories and how they got into the sport, how they've developed in the sport. And so, it's pretty cool.
Well, you're going to get this question a lot, or people are going to think it. Why you? Why are they going to come to you? Why are they going to come to your team? What do you think? I mean, you've got 15 at the Olympics right now in terms of people that have swum at Michigan before, swimming for you now. So, I mean, you can get people to the Olympics. There's no doubt about that. But why are people going to choose you in the end? They've got so much choice.
I mean, I would say come to Michigan because of what the school is going to do for you,
right.
The opportunities that are going to be created by having a graduate degree or an undergraduate degree from Michigan. And then just, if you look at our program, the track record that we have of producing Olympic gold medalists, world record holders, NC2A champions. I mean, you don't have to choose between academics and athletics at Michigan. You can get the best of both worlds. And then the other,
just ask Maggie McNeil that question. Yeah,
exactly. Yeah. And then the other piece is, I mean, we like to have fun, right? So you got to work hard in anything if you want to be successful, but we want to have fun while we're doing it. There's nothing worse than people coming into practice and thinking, oh man, like I don't want to do this today. So we understand that you've got to work hard, but you can do it in a fun way, or you can do it in a not fun way. And so we always try and make our practices creative and do some different stuff that's unique. You don't want monotony because it gets boring.
How do you track as a team, as a staff? How do you track progression? How do you track, do you do test sets of any kind, like for instance?
We do a little bit. I mean, I think I'm not a big test set guy. I mean, I obviously get on well with Herbie, and I think he's got a very analytical brain in the way that he likes to approach his progressions.
Right.
I would say I'm a little bit more just going off feel and watching the athletes. But I think, it depends on the event you do, right? So if you're a more aerobic athlete, then you've got to look, okay, is my aerobic capacity in a place where I'm good with it and I can start to switch over to more utilization work. And then if you're a sprinter, I think, we're tracking weight room numbers. So we're tracking how strong the athlete is. We're tracking how powerful they are. And then we're looking at how that translates into the pool. I think the difference on sprinting is, you're always trying to develop the technique as well.
Right.
Because I think at the highest level, the thing that's going to separate athletes is their technical ability, and then also their, how well they can handle pressure.
Right. What about this? How do you guys account for discipline, right? Like I know, having a fun environment, having a place where people can come and feel like they can grow and learn and have a lot of fun doing it. There's also, you're dealing with 18 to 22-year-olds who are coming into college, leaving their parents for the first time, got a lot of outside influences, and they're going to make mistakes. They're going to have to learn lessons. How do you personally, as a head coach, handle the discipline side of things?
I mean, I think like you hit it, right? The 18 to 22-year-olds, we understand that people are going to make mistakes, and I don't think people should be punished for that. But if it's continued and someone's just not understanding what the culture is of the team,
yeah.
and then they're kind of in direct conflict with the culture of the team, then that's when it's more of a, they just don't want to buy into what you're doing. And so, we always look at it, and people are going to make mistakes, and we'll help them with that. And some mistakes are going to be more costly than others. But, I think part of our role as a head coach or as coaches is to help people develop skills that are going to help them in life. And so, I think in terms of discipline, you're always coming at it with that mindset. You're trying to help them develop those skills and grow as people, not just as athletes.
Yeah. There's a question here, and I kind of like the first part of it where it says, "What's your taper formula?" But I'm going to relate it in terms of the difference between men and women. Is there differences in taper for sprint, middle, and distance when it comes to men and women?
Yeah, I think there is. I mean, I think I think women are actually probably more aerobically gifted than men,
right.
and so I would say a lot of women, you need to keep that aerobic, kind of just touching the aerobic a little bit more than you do with the men. I think if you drop the volume too much with women, a lot of them don't respond well to that.
Right.
And so you're always going to get one or two that are genetically a little bit more, like guys in that respect. But I would say with our women, we keep the volume a little higher. And I would also say that on the sprint side, you can hit a little bit more intensity more often with the women on the lead up. I mean, in the season when you're in hard work, but also in the lead up in taper. Whereas guys, I feel like you want to spike, hit the CNS, hit their system, but then, have days where you're just swimming easy and letting them recover.
Yeah. Do you ever have a situation very often where, kids will come in from high school and say, like, I'm a 200 butterfly, 200 IMer, and they end up being, 100 breaststroke or 50 freestyle or 500 freestyle? Do they switch events when they get to college?
Yeah, we get that a lot. I think it's, part of it is, I think a lot of coaches at the age group level, give kids a broad base, right? So they're trying to coach them across a lot of events. They're trying to cover all the strokes. And I think that actually really helps athletes in college. And so, sometimes they've just kind of been pigeonholed into certain events because that's what they've done in club or high school. But I think a good athlete is usually, if they've got good technical ability, it's transferable across quite a few strokes. And so, yeah, I mean, we see it all the time. We've seen people in our program start out as maybe a backstroker, but the way they hold the water, they can do it on freestyle as well. Or I would say fly and freestyle is pretty common. You get a lot of those. But yeah, I think as well, you get some that come in that are more aerobically focused, and then as they get stronger, they add a little bit more muscle, they get a bit more speed, then they come down the distance. And so, yeah. It's pretty rare that they go the other way, I would say.
Right. You think you think we're close to a time where we see a woman go 50 point in the 100 freestyle?
We're getting there. Yeah, I think so.
Getting close, I think. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't think it'll be at this one, but we're getting there as they get stronger and technically, I would say that they're improving a lot. So
yeah, and we're seeing soon. It's always the case. You see somebody go something, and then 5 other people believe now they can do it. So, like, once you see barriers being broken, so we're seeing a lot of women in the 51 barrier now, where we didn't see that very often. So I think we're going to start to push down on that, like we have on the men's side on the 46. There's a bunch of guys kind of breaking that 47 barrier now. So
there's definitely a mental component to it, because I mean, if you look at what Britain has been traditionally good at, it's been breaststroke, but it's because we've had breaststrokers for generations. I mean, going back to Duncan Goodhue, Adrian Morehouse, you're talking about Olympic gold medalists back in the 80s. And so the bar was always kind of, anyone that's growing up was the bar's here. And so, that's what they were aspiring to be, was the very best in the world. And so I think, I think with the US, a lot of the time the US has had the standard, and maybe Australia a little bit, but in those other nations where, not every event is at that level, I think the ones where people come through the most is where the standard is just really high. Because then when you're growing up, you think, oh, it's normal to be a 57-second 100 breaststroker.
Right. Well, we saw some fast swimming at NCAA, some crazy stuff. I think we're going to see some crazy stuff again at the Olympics. What's your predictions on possible world records that could be broken or rebroken?
I mean, I hate to go back to it, but the 100 freestyle, I think the 100 free for men is going to go
at the Olympics. Yeah,
I think it's going to go at the Olympics.
Nice.
I think it'll go in a semifinal rather than a final.
Maybe in a lead-off relay.
Yeah, that's true. Yeah, but I think we're going to see that go. I mean, Gretchen Walsh has been incredible. So I think, just seeing what she could do at the Olympics.
She looked like she'd go 54 on that 100 fly, didn't she?
I mean, she looks amazing. Yeah.
Jeez.
Yeah, no, I'm excited to watch her race, but yeah. I think this is going to be one of the fastest Olympics there's been. And I just think, obviously in a great city. I'm biased because my wife's French. And so,
all right.
Yeah, so I mean, she was a French Olympian in 2008. So
there you go. There's a little trivia for you guys.
Little trivia. She was a synchronized swimmer.
Oh, okay.
Now she's a rock star mom to our 3 kids. But no, I just think Paris is an amazing city, and it's going to be a great event.
Yeah. Who wins the women's 100 back?
Ooh.
Regan Smith or Kaylee McEwen?
It's going to be unpopular on here, but I think Kaylee McEwen's going to be a tough one to beat. I mean, Reagan's really coming on strong, and I think she looked phenomenal at trials.
Record, yeah.
She looked phenomenal at trials, but I just think of those big meets. I mean, Kaylee's been really, really good and consistent.
What is it about big meets where there are separators, right? Like I think of like a Kyle Chalmers as a guy that's a separator at a big meet. Like, what is that X factor? It's hard to put a finger on, isn't it?
It is. I mean, I think some of it's preparation, the way your coach gets you ready, but I think a lot of it is just your ability to handle pressure in the moment.
Right.
And, I think we started out this podcast talking about Hunter and just, that was one thing that I thought he did really well, was just when he was in the moment, he knew how to lock in and perform and be able to kind of separate. There's a lot of distractions when you're at those meets, and being able to get away from those distractions and lock in at the right moment is the most important piece.
Right. Well, Olympic gold can change your life, but thinking about that right before you get on the blocks is probably not the best solutions. You want to just be clear-minded, free of thought, and just go and race and kind of let it happen, So,
For sure.
Yeah. Going to be some good swimming coming up, eh?
Yeah, I'm excited for it.
I'm pumped. Thanks for dropping into the podcast here and sharing about Michigan.
Yeah, you're welcome, Brett. No, it was fun doing this today, man.
Yeah, love it.
It's a nice apartment you got here.
Yeah.
Look at this.
Yeah, check that out. Well, listen, Matt, appreciate it. Good luck for the second season at Michigan. If you're interested in Michigan, reach out. Listen, you can't find a better place than this. This is the ultimate school, swimming. I mean, setting yourself up for life here. So hit up Matt, get to Michigan, and go win a championship with this guy, right?
And go blue.
Appreciate it, mate. Take care.
Thanks, Brett.
Bye.
See ya.
All right, shut this down.